This is Everybody Pulls the Tarp with your host, Andrew Moses. Each week, Andrew talks with Olympians, pro athletes, TV stars, Grammy winners, best-selling authors, CEOs, and other high performers to uncover their success secrets.
My guest is Washington Commanders running back Austin Ekeler.
Every day we write a page of our life. The best thing is you have the pen in your hand.
Three-time Olympic gold medalist Tessa Virtue. Welcome back to Everybody Pulls the Tarp.
Thanks for thinking of me, and I'm a big fan of the podcast and of yours. So anytime you text or call, I'm here.
Mike Mills from REM.
The key to that was realizing at some point fairly early on that this was probably our life's work.
Every conversation is jam-packed with inspiration and actionable ideas.
My guest is 2023 WNBA Coach of the Year, Stephanie White.
The hardest thing for a coach is trying to prioritize how much time you put in one area or another.
Former MLB player, coach, and manager Clint Hurdle.
That is the best title of any podcast out there in America, and the content matches up to it. Andrew, you do a fantastic job. I'm a big fan. Keep up the great work.
World-renowned organizing expert Shira Gill.
You can improve your life simply by removing things.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the techniques, processes, and mindsets powering the world's most successful people.
Let's go. Hi, friends, and welcome back to Everybody Pulls the Tarp. Well, listeners, the 2026 Olympic Games in Milan Cortina are upon us. And I don't know about you, but I love the Olympics. I love the pageantry, the competition, the emotion, and seeing so many incredible athletes achieve their dreams. And after having the opportunity to interview more than 25 Olympians here on Everybody Pulls the Tarp over the past 5.5 years, I have an even greater appreciation for the hard work, discipline, and dedication behind all of these athletes' remarkable journeys. Over the past few weeks, I've been going back through my notebooks and revisiting many of the powerful ideas and inspirational stories we've uncovered in past conversations with Olympians here on the podcast. There is so much inspiration in all of their stories, and most importantly, ideas that all of us can apply to our own lives, both personally and professionally. And one of the conversations in particular that I've been reflecting on a lot lately is the episode I recorded back in 2024 with Team USA snowboarder and Olympic gold medalist Nick Baumgartner. So this week I am resharing my conversation with Nick, so let me get this one all set up for you. In 2022, after years of adversity and setbacks, Nick won his first Olympic gold medal at the age of 40 years old and became the oldest medalist in Olympic snowboard history. And now, here in 2026, Nick is back at it again. He is once again defying the odds and competing in Milan Cortina, this time his 5th Olympic Games. And like so many of the Olympians and world-class performers we've heard from here on Everybody Pulls the Tarp, Nick's story is a shining example of what's possible when we live the Everybody Pulls the Tarp mindset and are willing to do whatever it takes to reach our goals. Over the years, Nick worked summer jobs in Michigan pouring concrete to fund his Olympic dreams and lived out of an old construction van to reduce his commute time to training. And a few years ago, during the COVID-19 pandemic, when he didn't have access to his typical training facilities due to travel restrictions, Nick went outside with a shovel and a snowblower and spent 30 hours building a pump track in his yard to continue training. Back then, neighbors would drive by and look at Nick like he was crazy. But after years of setbacks, Nick was determined to not let anything get in his way. A few weeks later, he returned home with a gold medal and is now an inspiration to so many people who once thought he was nuts to even chase the dream at all. My conversation with Nick is a blueprint for taking action on ambitious goals, overcoming setbacks, defying the odds, and so much more. I hope you take away as much from Nick as I have. And after you listen to my conversation with Nick, I hope you'll also check out some of the other past conversations I've had with Olympians who are also competing in Milan Cortina, like speed skater Connor McDermott Mostoe, skier Jalen Koff, and bobsledder Alana Myers-Taylor. In the Everybody Pulls the Tarp podcast backlist, you will also find past conversations with many retired Olympic legends like Tessa Virtue, Tara Lipinski, and so many more. Each of the conversations here on Everybody Pulls the Tarp is unique, but they are all a powerful behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to reach the peak of any craft. There are lessons we can learn from all of them. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for the advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to this tarp replay. My conversation from back in 2024 with Olympic gold medalist Nick Baumgartner. So, I remember the first time that I snowboarded in my life. It was very painful, and I never did it again. What do you remember most about the first time you snowboarded?
Well, I think that's a very common theme for people that snowboard. Like if you go skiing, you can go out there and you can just get out on the mountain and do it. It doesn't force you to learn. Snowboarding is a little more brutal than that. If you don't learn how to do it, you will not leave the bunny hill. So the first couple days are very tough, but for those people that are willing to work through that and fight through that little bit of pain, it is so amazing. There's something just freeing about sliding sideways down a mountain.
What do you remember most about the experience in terms of like finding something that you were going to be passionate about? Did you like right from the start, did you say, I absolutely love this?
I definitely absolutely loved it, but what happened with me is I followed my older brothers into every sport that I did. So it gave me this, I wanted to try to be good so that they would allow me to hang out with them. Because as the youngest boy of 4 boys, they didn't want to hang out with me. I annoyed them. I drove them crazy. They like get away. I just wanted their acceptance. But more importantly, I wanted to be able to beat them in a sport. And they were so good in all the traditional sports. It seemed like snowboarding was my way to do that. I fell in love with the sport. It was just different than the traditional sports where you have coaches and people yelling at you and telling you what to do. Here, it was just all about me and expressing myself and having a good time. And I love that part of it.
I'm so fascinated, Nick, by people who excel at a lot of different sports. And you were a wrestling state champ, a state champion hurdler, an all-state football player, and obviously went on to win a gold medal in snowboarding. So I'm curious, you talked about some of the things that you liked more about snowboarding compared to the others. When did you determine that snowboarding was going to be the one that you were going to focus on the most? Because, I mean, you excelled at a lot of different things.
So it's funny, you go back to my freshman year of high school English class, and we came to class one day and our teacher asked us to write a paper on what we wanted to do for a career. So the day one, we had to write down what we wanted to do for a career and hand it in. And I was like, easy, I want to be a professional snowboarder. And it's funny because the next day I came to class and the teacher comes up to me and she goes, excuse me, can you come out into the hall with me? And I'm like, oh man, what did I do wrong now? This isn't good. So we go outside and to my surprise, she goes, you know what? That's super cool that you want to do that, but don't you think we could pick something a little more realistic? And it blew my mind. And don't get me wrong, she didn't mean to have any bad intentions by this. Still one of my favorite teachers to date, but she just didn't understand how bad I wanted it, nor did she understand how bad I was willing to work to get it. But I think I can still have that dream of going to college to play football and then to go on to maybe play in the NFL. When I went to college, I found out I was a little too immature for college. I wasn't ready for that step. I still needed rules and I needed parents and I needed these things. And when I went to college, it was like, woohoo! I had way too much fun, forgot to go to class, was asked to figure out my life and reevaluate it and come back next year. And then when I took that time off, that's when organized sport was taken away from me. You don't understand that when you're in school. You just want to get out of school and you want to get on with your life. But you lose a lot of opportunities when you leave school. And I found out what it was like to not have competition anymore. And snowboarding was my avenue.
How do you remember feeling when you lost that aspect of competition from like the organized school setting? Like what feelings and emotions do you remember experiencing?
Oh man, it was devastation, heartbreak. I mean, everything that I did, it went from one season blending into the next season, into the next season, into the next season. it always gave me these things to set goals and to push myself to see what I was capable of. And now I didn't have that other than men's league softball, and that wasn't going to cut it. I wanted to have that elite level experience where I was pushing myself and defying the odds. And here we are 20 years later.
Here we are still defying the odds, Nick. I want to go back to that moment that teacher brought you outside the classroom and had that conversation. I know how passionate you are about having bold dreams and ambitious goals. You've said that you hope that your story inspires people to dream, not only just dream, but the crazier, the better, you've said. And you have said that dreams should be so big that they scare the crap out of you. And Nick, I'm curious, has that always been a part of you? Or did that conversation with that teacher, did that kind of bring that out in you where you said, I am going to chase the biggest dream possible?
Well, I don't know. I think I always had that with me. And again, it goes back to my family with those 3 older brothers that were stud athletes in every sport that they did. I wanted big things and I wanted to see what I was capable of. And I wanted to beat my brothers. And that turned into this obsession of trying to go for the craziest things that I possibly could. One, the NFL, then go to, from watching the X Games is how it all started. I used to watch the X Games in high school. And all my friends used to be like, oh, they're so lucky. Those people are so lucky. And I looked at it just a little bit differently. I was like, I wonder if I trained for this, if I could beat those guys. And that completely changed it. And it set me on a trajectory that was just unbelievable. I think if it goes back to dreaming big, it all started with my favorite movie back in 1986. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Rad. It was about the local paper delivery boy. The pro BMX shows up to town, and the local paper boy ends up finding a way to compete, earns his opportunity, and wins the pro event. And I think that it's just stuff like that growing up that just made me go, why not? Right?
Wow. The power of why not? A movie, a book, a single conversation. There's so many things that I find from my own life and from the conversations that I've had with so many of the world's top performers in different crafts and different disciplines. One conversation, one movie, one song, like little things can just propel you on a path. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, you never know when that's going to click. And I try to tell people when I speak at schools, like, you guys, don't be afraid to try new things because you'll never know what your passion is. Like, I had no idea that just going out and trying to snowboard and hang out with my brothers would turn into the crazy thing that it has. And now from being a 15-year-old punk snowboarder getting in trouble at the ski hill has now come full circle where I get to speak at hundreds of schools and I get to go speak at communities and I get to use this story to do good. And I get to go to charity events and raise money for people that are doing amazing things in the world. And who would have known, right?
Who would have known? But I'm always fascinated, Nick, when I come across people who had somebody tell them at some point that their dream was too big or this isn't really practical. I recently had a conversation with a New York Times bestselling author who at a very young age said that she wanted to be an author. And her mother told her, why don't you figure out more of like a real job, one where you could make money? And so she went and became an attorney. And she was a practicing attorney, which she said felt like just 15 minutes. And she said, you know what? I'm going to go be a writer. And she became a best-selling author. And today, she says her mother's biggest fan. She reads manuscripts and gives her edits and tips and is just so proud of her. And I'm always fascinated by this idea that to chase any ambitious dream, you need people who believe in you and you need people who are going to try and keep you in check. And you need that balance. So obviously you had that teacher in check. Were there other people around you who were kind of fueling some of the self-belief that you already had, furthering that self-belief?
Well, there was definitely, I had a lot of people, my family and my friends that believed in what I was doing and thought that it'd be good. And I always say, like, I had a great support system from the beginning, and I always built this support system around me. And without them, I would never be successful. But without those doubters, without those critics telling me that I couldn't do it, they were just as important because it lit a fire in me to prove them wrong. I think too often people look at these people that are critics and tell them they can't do stuff. and they look at them as an enemy or as bad. It is so important to have those people in your life and that tell you that you can't. You think that critics didn't tell me that I couldn't make it to the Olympics at 40? It's funny. One of my first bosses out of high school, he came up to me the summer before and was like, you don't really think you can make the Olympics at 40, do you? And he's talking down to me. And it's crazy to think because this guy was a stud athlete in his time. And the fact that he didn't believe in that, but I thank him for that conversation quite often. Like without that, I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to make the Olympics at 40. I'm trying to go there, get a medal, and bring it home to my community. So when I do that, I'm going to show it to you and say, I believe I can.
It's so powerful. And you bring up a great point there, Nick, about the word I kind of think of it as perspective. And you have this remarkable perspective and ability to kind of reframe everything to kind of make it work for you. And you've found ways to reframe criticism and doubt as a motivator. I am curious, if you had to kind of distill it down, are you more motivated to prove the believers in you right? Or are you more motivated to prove the doubters wrong?
I think there's a balance, but I think it has to go to the doubters. Like I want to prove them wrong. And I think that goes back to where I grew up. I'm from a very small town in the middle of nowhere in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And we have smaller communities. We have the smaller schools. We don't have the same opportunities as these big school kids. And unfortunately, a lot of people up here think that that's a disadvantage. And I've always looked at that as our greatest advantage because we have to fight for what we want. No one's going to give us an opportunity. We have to go out there, we have to find it, and we have to earn it. And then on that day, for me, it was on that mountain in Beijing, 2022. I was more prepared than the other three athletes standing next to me. It's just how it was from my upbringing, from where I was from. I had to work a little bit harder than they did. There wasn't anyone that was going to give me an opportunity, send me to some academy to learn how to snowboard. We didn't have that kind of money. It wasn't possible. So we had to fight for it ourselves. And that, I think that ended up setting me up better for success.
It's incredible when you look at things that may on the surface seem like a disadvantage, but when you're able to turn that disadvantage into not just neutralize the disadvantage, but to turn it into an advantage that works for you. And you have clearly been able to do that. And I'm so fascinated, not just by what you've accomplished, but how you've accomplished it. You talked a little bit about your upbringing there. And I know you've worked summer jobs in Michigan, pouring concrete to fund this dream. You were training 90 minutes from your home, and to limit the travel time, you lived out of an old van. What went into those decisions? How do you believe that humble mindset has ultimately kept you moving forward?
Well, to answer the first part, what went into those decisions? There was no other choice. It was either believe the excuses that I can't make it happen or figure out a way to make it happen. And I think if you go back to the qualifying events going into the Olympics, I had qualified early by getting a podium at the first two races. And then I went home, and because of COVID, it was scary for us to go on and compete in Russia. They had very strict laws that if you got COVID, that you were going to be isolated and not be able to leave until you were tested negative, which we all know, we don't know how long that could take. So I chose to stay home, and I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't get COVID. So I could have believed the excuse that I need to sit here and I can't train. There's nowhere here to train for what I do. So instead, what I did is I went outside with a snowblower and a shovel, and I spent 30 hours building a pump track around my house. I have a flat yard, and I built this huge drop-in with concrete basement forms in a snowblower. And I went out there, and I did this for a couple of reasons. One, I needed to be able to train and to be ready. And number two, I needed to be able to go out there and just have a good time. I was like an 8-year-old boy building a snow fort. My neighbors are driving by and they're looking at me like, this guy's crazy. What in the heck is he doing? I got these forms right alongside the road. And then I built this huge staircase to get me to the top. And then they saw me start pumping around my house. Still thought I was crazy and didn't understand exactly what was going on. But a few weeks later, when we brought the gold medal home to the community, they're like, oh, that's what he was doing. You can't believe the excuses. You either believe the excuses and don't get what you want, or you find a way and you go out there and make it happen. And that's what I was forced to do. So it just worked out better for me. And again, from where I'm living, man, you do whatever you can, right? I was racing against kids from the Swiss Alps, from the Italian Dolomites, the Rocky Mountains, British Columbia, all the biggest mountains in the world. The medal came back to a 400-foot ski hill in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
That story, Nick, is incredible. And again, I feel like we keep coming back to these themes of turning disadvantages and limitations into advantages. And obviously you have this tremendous work ethic, this tremendous dedication to your craft. A lot of it has kind of been ingrained in you by your upbringing, but you're faced with a circumstance and you made the best of it. You were committed to not making excuses for yourself. And then you took this, and you've said, like, I love concrete. I love concrete because it's given me the opportunities to do these things. And never was that truer than the fact you knew how to pour concrete. You knew how to build this structure for yourself so you could train at home. You could train amidst the circumstances that you were in at the time. It's just a remarkable testament. And I just think about all those people that were driving by thinking you were nuts, that when you came back with that gold medal, went from kind of thinking you were nuts and thinking they had a crazy neighbor to now being incredibly inspired.
Yeah.
And obviously you speak at schools and you do so much work to instill these values in others. Your new book is out, Gold from Iron, A Humble Beginning, Olympic Dreams, and the Power in Getting Back Up. You've done so much work to inspire others. Was there a moment where you realized that you had a platform to impact others, not just people who want to be snowboarders or become Olympians, but anybody out there who's facing difficult circumstances or has a big dream or has a teacher that tells them they're thinking too big? When did you realize that you have a platform?
Well, I think just once I started getting traction with my craft in my career, I think it just allowed me to be able to talk to people. And it's funny now when I talk, everyone's like, you're such a good speaker. You do such a great job. And they think like there's this certain recipe of how to do that. And there isn't. I started doing it and I was absolutely terrible, but I kept doing it. Some of my speeches would just be horrible and some of them would be great. And I got better and better and better and better and better. And now I've learned from that. It's funny. People are afraid to try things sometimes because they don't want to suck at it. Unfortunately, that's how this works. You have to be terrible at something before you can be good. And then you learn how to keep doing that. And then once I went to my first Olympics, I was able to start speaking at schools. And I was like, dude, this is the coolest thing to have it come full circle where I can talk to kids and use this platform to inspire them. Because when I was younger, I would have killed to have an athlete like me come in and say, from my area, and tell me that it is possible, that you can do it, and instill that into me. I didn't have that. Luckily, I had the family that I had, my sister, my brothers, and my parents. The work ethic was set way up here, and each brother brought it to the next level. And it was like, I just got to keep up with these guys. And I was very fortunate.
What advice, Nick, do you have for people who start something, are terrible at it, and need to figure out how to keep going, whatever it is they're doing?
I mean, you got to take every opportunity that you get and you have to give it a full 110% or 150%, whatever that is, whatever quote you want to use for that. And you got to give it everything you have or you will not know what's possible. I think sometimes people go into things and they're not that great at it at first, and it's easier to just give up. Why not just try and see what happens?
Is there a formula that you have to determine if a goal is too big, right? Like, I understand the idea of you have to chase ambitious dreams.
Yes.
I'm always chasing ambitious dreams. I know you are too. But when you're setting goals for yourself, do you believe that there's a formula to making sure that the goal is challenging enough, that it's attainable, but also like realistic enough that you can see progress?
Yeah, I think I always tell people, and when I sign my autograph for kids, I always write dream big next to it. But you can't get so caught up on the finished dream because it's way too far away. I want to be a professional snowboarder, or I want to be an Olympic gold medalist. You can't be dreaming like that. You got to get into those trenches and say, yes, I want to be that, but am I willing to fight over and over and over again, get knocked down so many times and get myself back up and keep fighting for what I want? and you got to make a list of these smaller goals that will get you to there and start knocking them off. And I think it's all about scheduling things. Anyone that's successful has a schedule, and they write down everything they're going to do, and they try to stick to that schedule. And you have to make these small goals, but all headed towards the bigger one. So you have that big dream that almost seems unattainable, and then you find these goals along the way that will get you there, but they will also give you that boost of confidence, and it'll allow you to, all right, man, things are happening. Now the confidence is building, and now I'm headed closer and closer and closer. And then soon along that journey, you will start to see that light and be like, you know what? This is possible. I can do this. But again, you can't be so focused on the end goal. It's all about the journey. You got to get in, dive into that journey, and be part of the process and really believe in that process.
Nick, let's go back to 2010 in Vancouver, your first 4 Olympics so far. What do you remember most about that experience? And do you remember it being as you had imagined?
Well, yeah. So I had to fight for my chance to get there. It was very close. I got the 4th and final spot. And the next 2 people that were biting at my heels trying to get my spot were Olympic gold medalist Ross Powers from the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake City in halfpipe, and Sean Palmer, the guy who invented my sport. So I was like, holy cow. So, and then just to make the team and to be able to go there and represent not only my country, but my family and my friends and my community back home, going there. And I will never forget walking out into opening ceremonies. People always ask me, what is that like? And it's hard to put it in words, but it's completely changed who I am as a person. It's made me so much more emotional. Now, if there's anything that happens, like I watch a movie that's a tearjerker or sad, waterworks are coming out. I can't hold it in. And that emotion, I think, is so good and so important. And then, so they say that the prime age to be successful in snowboard cross is 28 to 32. I was 28 in Vancouver, 32 in Sochi, Russia. Those were my worst experiences ever. Not experiences, but my worst athletic performances. I didn't make it through the first round. The critics told me I was terrible. I had no business representing Team USA. And I'm sure the guys that I barely beat out for that Olympics, like Sean Palmer and Ross Powers, were like, what the heck, man, this should have been my chance. But little did they know that I needed those 2 failures in order to propel me to be better. Those 2 failures set me up for a 4th place finish at 36 in Pyeongchang, South Korea. And then without all those experiences and all those failures and all those setbacks and all that adversity, the gold medal doesn't come home with me in Beijing. It was a journey that I needed to go along. And not only did I need to go on it, but it made it so much better. I think people get so mad when they fall short, and it's easy to quit. But without those bad days, the good ones aren't as good. You need them. And I think it's what kept me humble, and it kept me going for it. Had I won an Olympic gold medal in Vancouver, I might have turned into a little crap stain. Who knows? I wouldn't have done the same things that I'm doing. I wouldn't have appreciated it as much. I'm sure 100% I wouldn't be as happy as I am than I am right now. I think it needed to go through that journey. Plus, the bad things, man, it makes your story so much better. Like the worse it is and the harder it is to get to where you are, makes such a better narrative. And then you get to write an amazing book.
You sure did write an amazing book. Gold from Iron, I mentioned it before, A Humble Beginning, Olympic Dreams, and the Power in Getting Back Up. So, Nick, I'm curious. I mean, and there's probably like a technical snowboarding side of this, and then there's also kind of an everything else mindset, et cetera, part of this. What do you think? Let's look at like 2010 and 2014. You mentioned that those did not go as you had planned.
Yeah.
What were your biggest takeaways coming out of those that you felt like you needed to address?
Well, 2010, it was just like, I thought I could go in thinking that I could handle all the pressure and it wasn't going to be that big. Oh, it's no problem. I've competed in everything, but wow, the Olympics is a crazy circus and it's so big. So it just had to be. 2014, both of them had very bad weather conditions, pouring rain, super warm. And both of those did affect me, but it's the same for everyone. But in 2014, it snowed for the last 15 minutes before we got into the gate, and I was in the first heat, and no one went out of my gate. We usually run 4 runners to put a path in so that everything's fair. No one went out of my gate, and we didn't even really pay attention to that. And in hindsight, we should have said something. We pulled out, and by the first turn, I was so far behind, it was ridiculous. And then we got to turn 1, and that's where the snow had stopped, and it was back to rain. My board took off, and I flew off. I could have blamed this on so many things, but I needed to find a way to take accountability and make sure. I mean, there was plenty of things that I did wrong. One, I didn't train as hard as I could have going into 2014. And I needed to find a way to do that, because if you always pass that blame to someone else, you are not going to find that growth, and you are never going to get better at what you do. No matter what happens, there could be someone else at fault or something else at fault, in this case, the weather. But if you can't find a way to take responsibility for it, you just lost your chance to get better, and you lost your chance to learn. And I think Sochi was important for me in that. And I'm very fortunate that I've had the longevity in my career that I could learn from these mistakes. And that, again, is why it's so important for me to go speak to these kids, because as we all know in life, you got to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. And it's usually the way that it sticks the most. They don't have to learn them all the hard way. There's plenty of us that have already made those mistakes and learned from those lessons. And lots of us have written about it in the book. So I think it gives us an awesome opportunity to be able to help those people and to make it a little bit easier on them. Not too easy, because you need that hard stuff, but yeah, it's been great.
A little easier doesn't hurt, but I 100% agree with you, Nick, about the power of learning from the journey and learning from the missteps along the way. And you're right. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way for it to stick. And again, I think it's about this idea that you are truly remarkable at reframing disadvantages as advantages and turning failure into opportunity, which is just such a critical formula in success. So in 2022, obviously we talked a little earlier about some of the things that you were doing behind the scenes to put yourself in the best position. When you got to Beijing, were you confident?
Absolutely. I was so confident. We had just had the Olympic test event in November of 2021. So just a few months prior, we went there and I took the bronze medal. And then I went to the next race and I took second behind the kid who ended up winning the individual race in Beijing. And then I'm at the top of the course in my individual race and I make one small mistake and devastation, man. I'm at the bottom and I don't qualify into the semifinals. And it is heart-wrenching. I mean, I'd put 17 years of my life into this, and then there it was. Is this the end for me? I was 40 years old. I mean, I'm running out of chances, all these things. And I was like, what is going to happen? Luckily, I got an opportunity at redemption in the team race because of all the success that I had earlier in the season. So then we went up there, and me and my teammate, and it was funny because the goal has always been to win a gold medal and bring it home to my community. But after I had that devastation and that mistake in the individual race and fell short of my goal, it was now more about like, whatever, I don't care about the medal. I just want to show everyone back home, all these kids from these small towns, what's possible if you make sacrifices, if you drive an hour and a half and you live out of a van, if you build a track around your house, if you make these sacrifices and you do everything in your power to be successful, what's possible? I didn't get that opportunity to prove that in the individual race, and I just wanted that opportunity. And as me and Lindsay advanced through the rounds and get to the finals, I'm standing in the gate and I look to my left and I can't help but giggle because next to me is the bronze medalist from the individual race. Next to him is the silver medalist from the individual race. And next to him on the outside is the guy who broke my back going into the 2018 Olympics and made it very hard for me. And I ended up fourth there, but it was all good. But I couldn't help but giggle and say, you wanted an opportunity to prove something. Here's your chance, buddy. And then all that came together and I ran the best race of my life, executed everything perfectly, gave my teammate Lindsay the advantage by winning my side so her gate would open first. And then I cheered my teammate like a crazy person. Anyone who saw that thought I was crazy or thought I was Will Ferrell. We had very similar mannerisms. And we're screaming and I'm yelling and freaking out. And then we win. And I realized this dream that I've been working for so long for. And man, when you make a dream that big and you finally knock it off, that feeling that you feel is one that I hope everyone in this world gets to feel at one point in their life. But that's from shooting way up here. And yeah, what a crazy ride.
Nick, what a crazy ride, but one filled with so much determination and perseverance and an absolutely inspiring mindset. And I know you're still at it. You are training for the next Olympics, and you continue to chase big dreams, chasing dreams that, as you put it, dreams should be so big they should scare the crap out of you.
I have that quote above my bed, Muhammad Ali. I have these quotes all over my house. So when I walk around a corner, there's a reminder that you can do it. And it's just something that I've adopted and I love.
I love that. I have quotes and photos and different things and memorabilia and different things that inspire me all over my office and all over my home as well. This has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. Nick, I wish you the best of luck and continued success in snowboarding and whatever big, bold dreams that scare the crap out of you choose to pursue the rest of the way. Nick, I hope this is the first of many, many conversations. All right. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. And there is no question you are a certified tarp puller, forever a part of the Everybody Pulls the Tarp community, pouring that concrete, building that snowboard setup at your home, not making excuses. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Whatever it takes, go get what you want.
All right, everyone. If you loved this episode, you might also enjoy my interview with two-time World Cup champion, two-time Olympic gold medalist, and back-to-back FIFA Women's Player of the Year, Carly Lloyd. In 2003, Carly was cut from the U.S. under-21 national team. But instead of quitting, she got to work. She set out training 2 to 3 times per day and transformed her mindset to embrace challenges, stop making excuses, and turn weakness into strength. Ultimately, Carly went on to become the best player in the world, winning back-to-back FIFA Women's Player of the Year awards in 2015 and 2016. You can find my conversation with Carly right here on Everybody Pulls the Tarp in your favorite podcast app. It's filled with inspiration and powerful lessons that you don't want to miss. Check it out and let me know what you think. Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123 and sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Until next time, keep pulling the tarp.